Afterglow Movie Net, Saturday, 10:30 p.m., W5FC.
K5 KLB, KG5 UFR. I got your K and your 5, but you're not holding the repeater. It's actually worse. K5 KLB, KG5 UFR. I got part of your call sign there, but still not a lot coming through. KG5 UFR.
This is Info BB. In about 2 minutes, I'll be starting Skynet. So if you've got a conversation, if you don't mind, please try to complete it in the next couple of minutes. This is N5BB, Skynet Net Control.
N5BB, this is KG5 UFR. We'll clear. We were just trying to see if he could make the net through RF, but doesn't look like it's going to come to fruition, and we'll be sitting by for net. KG5 UFR.
Okay, N5BB, be back in a minute or two.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anybody need to use the repeater before we begin Skynet? This is N5BB. This is November 5 Bravo Bravo. My name is Bill. I'll be your net control for this session of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club, Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the # sign break in your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from your net control N5BB. Stations are reminded to identify at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates at 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using a W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. I am monitoring Echolink here, and I can see the couple of other stations that are on now. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to W5FC.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. net is 90 minutes long, structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, National Space Society, discussion topic of the evening by the Net Control Station, Was Up, space exploration and space history, the Constellation of the Week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, and visible satellite passages of the next few days, and if we have time, any astronomical questions and answers before 73 rounds. All emitters licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. This is N5BB, net control for Skynet. Let's start with short time check-ins. If you can't stay very long, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is N5BB, Skynet. Oh my, we may have a short net. Do we have any short-time check-ins? Please come now.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Foxtrot Papa November. Kilo Golf 5, Foxtrot Papa November. The name's Guy. That's Golf Uniform Yankee Mobile.
Kilo Charlie 5, Mike Papa Oscar, Jamie Mobile, left field.
Okay, I recognize KG5FPM, Guy, and KC5MPO, Jamie. Thank you very much. Do we have any other short-time check-ins? Okay, Guy or Jamie, do either one of you have any questions or comments or news for the net? If so, please come now.
KC5MPO, have no news or comments. Thank you, KC5MPO.
Okay, now let's go to general RF check-ins. We'll do Echolink later. So for RF check-ins, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is Skynet in 5BB, general check-ins.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Planet Earth.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob, Dallas.
Kilo India 5, Uniform Alpha, Uniform David in Mesquite.
Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert and Richardson.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Kilo 5, Mike, Charlie Delta, Cody in Dallas, low power.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, Cruise in Arlington.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Kilo India 5, Juliet Charlie Mike, Thomas in Euless, KI5 JCM.
Okay, let's pause there. I recognize KF5JHA. Hello, Chaz. KG5H, excuse me. Let me read my own writing here. KG5UFR, Jacob. KI5UAU, David. AA5AH, Robert. KE5ICX, Tom. KF5ZBL, Bill. K5MCD, Cody. KI5KWZ, hello, Cruz. W5GUS, my buddy Gus over in far northeast Dallas. NV5F, my friend Virginia in Fort Worth. KI5JCM, Thomas. Do we have any other RF check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet. Okay, I think we've run out of RF check-ins on Echolink. Let's see. Tony, NT5TM, do you want to check in? Well, Chaz, you've already checked in, so I don't have any reason to check you in a second time. Tony must be still logged in from the earlier net. Okay, so nobody else there. So one more try. Do we have any other stations on any mode that would like to check in to Skynet? If so, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is N5BB.
Good evening, this is Alpha Golf, Niner, Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas, AG9SG.
And we picked up one more, AG9SG. Good evening, Antonio. Okay, now, do we have anybody with any general announcements? This can be related to amateur radio, astronomy, or space, just something of general interest to licensed hams. If you have any such announcements, please come now with your call sign only. Well, this may be a very slow net with no announcements. I just will say that there is going to be some nets tomorrow evening on this repeater, and we will have the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air at 7 p.m., followed by the Dallas Races net. You can listen, but you can only check in if you're a Dallas Races member at 8 p.m. That all goes on tomorrow evening here, Sunday, on this repeater. And then we have various nets that continue here through the week. There are AMSAT nets locally. Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m., we have an AMSAT net on this repeater. And then we have on Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. a similar AMSAT satellite net at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. These are nets that are associated with AMSAT or just satellite operation in general, amateur satellite operation in general. You do not have to be an AMSAT member to check into these nets. Anybody can. So again, on both Tuesday night on this repeater and on Wednesday night on the Arlington 147.14 repeater. 8 o'clock here on Tuesday, 9 o'clock on Arlington. Then there's a bunch of other nets. On Mondays, there are nets, depending on the week. I already mentioned Tuesday. On Friday at 8 p.m., we have the Cert City Simulation Net at 8 p.m. Then on Saturday, we have TechNet at 7, and, of course, Skynet at 9 o'clock. We also have a ARL traffic net every evening at 6:30 p.m. on this repeater. And at 9:30 p.m. on the 146.72 megahertz repeater in Irving, we have the evening session, the later evening session of the traffic net. We also have an afterglow net that's after this net, starting about 10:30 p.m. Tom, would you, at KE5ICX, would you like to tell us what's going to be going on the afterglow net this evening? I think there's a rather famous actor that's the protagonist there. Go ahead, Tom. KE5ICX N5BB. Tell us about afterglow.
Well, thank you, Bill, and this is KE5ICX. Well, here's this waiting at McDonald's drive-thru, but something was wrong. The skeleton at the window wouldn't take his money. Perhaps it was the decayed vines blocking the window. Well, things had changed a lot since the aliens destroyed the moon in 2017, leaving the Earth uninhabited. But then Jack, who looked a lot like Tom Cruise, also wasn't the brightest combat drone repair guy. Join us for tonight's Afterglow movie, Oblivion, from 2013 at 10:30 p.m. It's something. Back to you, Bill, KE5ICX.
Well, very good, Tom. Okay, do we have any additional check-ins, comments, or questions? This is N5BB, Net Control, Skynet. Any more check-ins? Okay. Next, we have Chaz, KF5JHA. Chaz, the resident astronomer. Please tell us about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. This is N5BB, Skynet.
Why, thank you, Bill. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, August the 25th. That would be 2023, and the meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker will be Dr. Madhav, I'm going to mess up his last name, I'm sorry, Turmalia, from the University of Houston, and his topic is going to be about astrobiology. Now, the Saturday night public observing sessions have begun again. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. Now, this is the first Saturday, so on the first Saturday of the month, stargazing is held at Fairview. Do we have any ham radio operators at the stargazing that would like to make a report? Come now with your call sign if you would like to make a report. It's kind of up there. I'm not sure if they'd be able to hit the repeater unless they have a high-powered radio. All right, so check the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And this is KF5JJ, sending it back to Mr. Bill.
Well, thank you, Chaz. This is N5BB, Skynet. Do we have any additional check-ins? Okay, let's now move ahead with National Space Society events and activities. This is N5BB, Net Control for Skynet. I happen to be the membership director and the director at large for the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. Our next meeting is on Sunday, August the 13th, starting at 3:30 p.m. Location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The presenters this month will be two hams, Cynthia in 5TFB and her husband Dietrich, KF5L Wisnand. They will be presenting the Sun, Moon, and Mars, interactions and explorations. There are some upcoming events that the National Space Society North Texas chapter will be participating in. You might be interested in some of these. On both August the 12th and September the 2nd, those are Saturdays, August the 12th and September the 2nd. Saturdays at 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., National Space Society members will be in Garland City Hall, 200 North 5th Street in Garland, for the Garland and Beyond Space Exhibit. This is a traveling NASA exhibit with artifacts showcasing the manned space program and local companies who participated. The National Space Society is assisting on some days with this event. We've already done it 2 or 3 days, and we're doing it these last 2 days. September the 2nd is the last day of this event. You can find out more. There's a website for this, the Garland and Beyond Space Exhibit. I'm sure you can find it with a web search. Then, on August the 26th, also a Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., there will be Space Day at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History at 1600 Gindy Street in Fort Worth. This is over in the Museum District in Fort Worth, right close to the major art museums in Fort Worth, and close to the right across the street from the Dickey Center, the big arena down there. So this is north of I-30 over in the west side of Fort Worth. So Space Day at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History, August the 26th. Be there or be square. National Space Society North Texas chapter has a website, ntx.nss.org. That's ntx.nss.org. There's also a Facebook page, and there's also a Twitter account and some other social media accounts. That's all I have about National Space Society. Do I have any additional check-ins, questions, or comments? This is N5BB, Skynet. Okay. Well, unfortunately now you have to listen to me longer because of the way the net is currently configured. I have two sessions here which are adjacent to each other. This is the discussion topic of the evening by the Net Control. And my topic this evening is stars powered by dark matter may have been seen by the James Webb Space Telescope. So this is new science, which is not confirmed yet. This is just prospective science, proposed explanations for this. So 3 objects which were originally thought to be galaxies may be powered by dark matter. So this is from the Physics World August the 1st, 2023, and it relies on an article in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. It's a paper. Some analysis of some James Webb Space Telescope images. This is N5BB Skynet. So this is from Physics World, August 1st issue, written by Sam Jarman, J-A-R-M-A-N. A trio of U.S. astronomers has found compelling evidence for the existence of dark stars, hypothetical objects powered by the annihilation of dark matter. Dark stars could explain the unexpected abundance of ancient galaxies seen by the James Webb Space Telescope. Catherine Fries at the University of Texas in Austin, along with Cosmin Illy and Gillian Paulin at Colgate University, used James Webb Space Telescope data to conclude that 3 of these galaxies may actually be dark stars. Less than 2 years after its first images were released, James Webb Space Telescope has already changed astronomers' understanding of the early universe. Among its most surprising observations has been the sheer number of extremely bright ancient galaxies, which would have formed in regions rich in dark matter. Dark matter is a hypothetical substance that is invoked by physicists to explain the large-scale structure of the universe. While it has never been observed directly, it is a part of the current standard model of cosmology, the lambda cold dark matter model. This describes the structure and expansion of the universe while accounting for the gravitational influence of dark matter. This is N5BB, Skynet, net in progress. Dark matter heating. In 2007, Fries and colleagues proposed the possibility of dark stars, which may have been common in the early universe. While composed mostly of hydrogen and helium, these exotic stars would be fueled by dark matter heating rather than nuclear fusion. This could involve a type of dark matter called weakly interacting massive particles, WIMPs. WIMPs have evaded discovery for decades in Earth-based detection experiments. But according to Fries's team, the sheer density of dark matter in the early universe could cause them to interact far more frequently with regular matter during the formation of some of the earliest stars. In the early universe, WIMPs could have annihilated into photons, electron-positron pairs, and other particles, which collided with a hydrogen in collapsing clouds, Fries explains. These particles then get stuck inside the cloud and deposit all the energy from the mass of the dark matter particles into the cloud. The cloud then stops collapsing and instead turns into a dark star. Dark stars are stars in every sense, and that the immense gravity of their cold, infalling material is perfectly balanced by outward hydrostatic pressure generated by energy-releasing processes in their interiors. All the same, Fries says they have several key distinctions from regular stars. First, they're cool throughout. They have no cores, unlike fusion-powered stars, which need high temperatures in order for fusion to take place, Fries explains. Dark stars are cool throughout, including at the surface, so that they do not produce ionizing photons or winds that would prevent them from accreting mass. As a result, Fries and colleagues argue that dark stars balloon in size to some 10 astronomical units. That's 10 times the radius of the Earth's orbit around the Sun, and millions of solar masses. This allows the stars to pull in even more particles of dark matter. In the process, a supermassive dark star may become bright enough to outshine an entire galaxy. This is N5BB, Skynet in progress. Ordinarily, galaxies can be easily distinguished from stars since they take up extended regions of space, whereas stars appear as single points of light. Yet at such vast distances, even the James Webb Space Telescope does not have a high enough resolution to distinguish between stars and galaxies. If Fries and her colleagues are correct, this would suggest that ancient galaxies appear so numerous in James Webb Space Telescope's data because many of them are actually these massive dark stars, supermassive dark stars. To search for evidence of these supermassive dark stars, the trio of scientists examined data from the James Webb Space Telescope Advanced Deep Extragalactic Survey, JDS. In the survey, they looked for evidence of light at certain wavelengths being absorbed by candidate stars. In particular, they were interested in the 1640 nanometer helium-2 absorption line, which is often observed in the spectra of hot, bright stars. A helium-2 absorption line would be a smoking gun for a dark star, as galaxies would not produce such lines, Fries says. If elements other than hydrogen and helium are found, then it's not a dark star. As they searched with JDs, they identified several objects that closely matched their supermassive dark star criteria. We found that 3 of them are good matches to be supermassive dark stars, Fries continues. They have the right spectra, although the resolution of the detector can't yet tell whether these are point objects or extended objects. This is N5BB, Skynet. In the future, the team hopes James Webb Space Telescope will pick up supermassive dark star candidates that have been magnified by gravitational lensing, which may boost resolution high enough to confirm that the objects are indeed single points of light rather than extended galaxies. If some of these early objects are dark stars instead of galaxies, that would help maintain the consistency of James Webb Space Telescope's observations with the standard model of cosmology, Fries says. On top of this confirmation could be a major breakthrough in our understanding of the nature of dark matter and provide further evidence for the existence of WIMPs. This is N5BB, Skynet in progress. By the way, reading some more, there's some thought that in some cases there may be galaxies which interact with other galaxies and that causes them to slow down, the matter to slow down. But the dark matter may keep moving, leading to the dark matter in some galaxies not being lined up with the visible matter. So there's all kinds of interesting things coming out about dark matter. The aggravating thing is we still don't really know what it is or if it really exists. Okay, that's all of that. Next, do we have any additional check-ins, comments, or questions? This is Skynet N5BB at control.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth, just checking in.
And I recognize KB9S. Okay, hash on. Let's see, Joe, KG5ZMG. Were you trying to check in there? Go ahead, Joe. We got you, Joe, KG5ZMG. Tony, NT510. Do you want to check in? Well, Tony's Echolink node is check in, but there must be no humans there. Maybe some artificial intelligence is on Tony's setup there. Okay, Chaz, KF5GHJHA. What's up, Chaz? This is N5BB, Skynet.
That's a great question. The sky, the moon, the sun, the stars, the planets, clouds. Ask an astronomer a good question. Oh, wait, that's the name of the segment, isn't it? This is Chaz, KF5JHA. We call the segment of Skynet, What's Up? With a question mark, because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the next couple of weeks. Slide Master, that was slide number 1, but you already knew that. Our slide master is Tom. Thank you so much, Tom. Slide number 2, please. The sun is very active, not just active. If you have a pair of the eclipse glasses left over from the 2017 solar eclipse, get them out and look at the sun every day or two. A couple of weeks ago, we had a sunspot so big that all you needed was the eclipse glasses to see the sunspot for several days. The current sunspot number is 122. The solar activity is so high that it is triggering aurora that was visible as far south as Arizona last night. Wow. If this solar activity keeps up, then the solar maximum, which is predicted to peak around July 2025, this could be the most active solar cycles in several decades. Could be interesting. Stay tuned for more information on Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 3, please. The full moon was on August the 1st, so the current phase of the moon is a waning gibbous. Third quarter moon is on August the 8th. August 16th is the moon's new phase. Also on August 16th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,634 kilometers. On August the 24th is the first quarter phase of the moon. And August the 30th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 357,181 kilometers. Also, on August the 30th is the second full moon in the month of August. This is often called a blue moon. A blue moon only happens about every 3 years. The last blue moon was on October the 31st, 2020. Yep, Halloween. Wow. And any full moon on Halloween will be a blue moon, because it has to be the second full moon in October. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. On August the 8th, in the early southeastern morning sky, the moon and Jupiter will be in conjunction, being only about 4 degrees apart from each other. Slide Master, slide number 5. On August the 9th, in the early eastern morning sky, the star cluster Pleiades, also known as M45, and the moon will be in conjunction, only about 2 degrees apart from each other. Slide Master, slide number 6. Now, the night of August the 11th and 12th is the peak of the annual Perseid meteor shower. The Perseid meteor shower can have over 100 meteors per hour at its peak. Of course, this number of meteors is if you're far away from the city lights. And the hour just before morning twilight begins is often the best time, because this is the side of the Earth that is running into the swarm of debris left over by the comet Swift-Tuttle. Now, to get detailed information about how to observe meteors and more information about meteor showers, you can visit the International Meteor Organization, IMO.net, or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Now, I plan to not be on Skynet next weekend, but rather out in West Texas looking at those Perseid meteors. Slide Master, slide number 7, please. August the 18th is the conjunction of the Moon and Mars in the very low western evening sky during evening twilight. A pair of binoculars would be best to observe them. Slide Master, slide number 8. On August the 28th in the early morning eastern sky, the asteroid Vesta and the Crab Nebula, which is also known as M1, will only be about 2 degrees apart from each other. A pair of binoculars will be required to observe both. Inside the city, it will be difficult to see the Crab Nebula because, well, you need to have a good finder chart and also computer software so you can see the asteroid Vesta. I've seen Vesta with just a pair of binoculars, and in fact, I've seen the Crab Nebula with my 20 by 80 binoculars. But again, that's away from the city lights. Vesta I've seen inside the city with binoculars. Slide Master, slide number 9, please. At the beginning of August and now at the end of August, the Moon and Saturn were in conjunction. And this time, it's on August the 30th. They'll be in conjunction in the southern sky just after midnight. Slide Master, slide number 10. Remember that we have 2 solar eclipses coming up very soon. Solar eclipse is when the Moon is in between the Earth and the Sun. And for a few very lucky people on the Earth, it blocks some or all of the Sun from our view. Slide Master, slide number 11. October the 14th eclipse is a partial annular solar eclipse for us here in North Texas. But along a path in West Texas and in New Mexico, there's a path where the Moon will block out all but just a ring, or sometimes we call that an annulus, of sunlight from our view. The eclipse will begin about 10:30 a.m. The middle of the eclipse is around 11:52 a.m. when about 81% of the sun is covered by the Moon, and the eclipse ends at 1:29 p.m. Those times are for Brookhaven campus of Dallas College. That's where I work, so that's why I did the prediction for that location. Slide Master, slide number 12. On April the 8th, 2024 is a total solar eclipse for us right here in North Texas. Now, from Brookhaven campus, the sun will be completely blocked out for around 3 minutes and 20 seconds in between 1:41 and 1:44 p.m. Now, during that time, called totality, you'll be able to see the stars in the sky just like it were evening twilight. Now, the next total solar eclipse visible from North Texas won't be until July 9th, the year 2317. So a total solar eclipse is a very big deal since it only happens about once every 300 years here in North Texas. We'll, of course, talk more about that as we get closer. And I am KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 13. Once again, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting is going to be held on Friday, August the 25th at 7:30 p.m. at the University of Texas at Dallas. It's also held on Zoom. And the featured speaker is Mahadan Tremalali from the University of Houston, and his topic is going to be about astrobiology. And, of course, Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night because of the public observing stations for the Texas Astronomical Society. And on the first Saturday of the month, stargazing is held at Fairview. I think it happened. It was clear, although it was hot. You can check the website at TASS by going to texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. Now, Slide Master, slide number 14. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any information? Or do you just have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign if you've got a question or need a fill. Pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now. And until next time, actually, I'll be doing another Skynet segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA, back to our net control, N5BB. That would be Mr. Bill.
Okay, thank you very much, Chaz. Do we have any comments, questions, or additional check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet. Okay, now it's time for space exploration and space history. It's Brenda's night, but Tom is supposed to be reading the information because Brenda's not on the air right now. K5ICX, Tom, what you got going for space exploration news? This is N5BB, Skynet.
Well, thank you, Bill, and thanks to Brenda, WB50ZL, for putting this together. She gave it a college try today to try and get on the air, but she's still having some problems from her new QTH. But eventually she'll be on the air. Let's see if we can get her going here in a little bit. Anyway, this is what she has, and there is a contribution by you in there as well, and I'll read that. Let's see, we start with Snoopy. A new exhibit called Snoopy in Orbit has opened at the Charles Schultz Museum in Santa Rosa, California, and it runs through January 2024. Anyone who's a fan of the space program, that's just about anybody who's ever, whoever has been on this net, you will recall that Snoopy became, I believe it was on Apollo 10, became the mascot. And then after that, he kind of became the unofficial mascot for NASA for many years after that. And you will find at Mission Control Snoopy memorabilia scattered throughout the Manned Spacecraft Center, and especially in the Mission Control area. So there should be plenty there. I hope somebody will take pictures and share them online, because I don't think I'll be out there anytime soon. Next up is from you, Bill. Voyager 2 update says the agency's Deep Space Network facility in Canberra, Australia, sent the equivalent of an interstellar shout more than 12.3 billion miles to Voyager 2, instructing the spacecraft to reorient it and turn its antenna back on Earth with a one-way light time of 18 and a half hours for the command to reach Voyager. It took 37 hours for mission controllers to learn whether the command worked. At 12:29 Eastern Daylight Time on August 4th, the spacecraft began returning science and telemetry data indicating it was operating normally and that it remains on its expected trajectory. And this is interesting too. Actually, Brenda does have a few things here. She's added to it. I'll go ahead and give you that information. It says here, August 1st, using multiple antennas, NASA's Deep Space Network was able to detect a carrier signal from Voyager 2. The signal is what the spacecraft uses to send data back to Earth. The signal was too faint for data to be extracted, but the detection confirms that the spacecraft was still operating. Let's see. The spacecraft also continues on its expected trajectory, although the mission expects the spacecraft to point its antenna at Earth in mid-October. They will try the command, which was successful, by the way. It's about 2 degrees off. So I guess she had an older story in here, and you updated it. So I read them out of order. Anyway, things are going good for Voyager is restored to full scientific operation. Next up is NASA's trio of mini rovers will team up to explore the moon. Working together without direct human input, 3 rovers, each the size of a carry-on bag, will map the lunar surface in 3D using cameras and ground-penetrating radar. NASA is sending a trio of miniature rovers to the moon to see how well they can cooperate with one another without direct input from mission controllers back on Earth. The teamwork-minded experiment to demonstrate new technology called CADRE, or Cooperative Autonomous Distributed Robotic Exploration, project marks another step in the agency is taking towards developing robots that, operating autonomously, can boost the efficiency of future missions. And by taking simultaneous measurements from multiple locations, the rovers are meant to show how multi-robot missions could potentially enable new science or support astronauts. Currently slated to arrive aboard the lander in 2024 as part of NASA's CLPS, or Commercial Lunar Payload Services Initiative, cadres of 3 small rovers will be lowered onto the Rainier Gamma region of the moon via tethers. Each about the size of a carry-on suitcase, well, we mentioned that earlier. 4-wheeled rovers will drive to find the sunbathing spot where they'll open their solar panels and charge up. And they'll spend a full lunar day, or about 14 Earth days, conducting experiments designed to test their capabilities. Next up is NASA helps spot wine grape disease from skies above California. In a case study, scientists detected a costly infection of Cabernet Sauvignon grapevines before they showed symptoms visible to the human eye: withering bolls, root rotting, bacteria, viruses, and other plant pathogens destroy an estimated 15 to 30% of global harvests every year. Early detection can make a difference between a failed crop and a treatable one. Using an airborne science instrument developed by NASA's JPL in Southern California, researchers have found that they can accurately spot the stealthy signs of a grape disease that inflicts millions of dollars in annual crop damage. The remote sensing technique could aid ground-based monitoring for this and other crops. In a pair of new studies, researchers from JPL and Cornell University focused on a viral disease called GLRAV3, short for grapevine leaf frawl associated virus complex 3. Primarily spread by insects, the disease reduces yields and sours developing fruit, costing the U.S. wine and grape industry around $3 billion in damages and losses annually. Typically, it's detected by labor-intensive vine-by-vine scouting and extensive molecular testing. The research team wanted to see if they could help growers identify the infections early and from the air by using machine learning and NASA's next-generation airborne visible infrared imaging spectrometer, or NVIRUS-NG. The instrument's optical sensor, which records the interaction of sunlight with chemical bonds, has been used to measure and monitor hazards such as wildfires, oil spills, greenhouse gases, and air pollution associated with volcanic eruptions. Next up are birthdays, astronauts in particular. We have Gregory C. Johnson, was born on July 30th, 1954. He was on STS mission 125. Richard Okobe, he was born on August 1st, 1946. He flew STS 51I, 26, 38, and 61. We have Joan Higginbotham. She was born on August 3rd, 1964. She flew on STS 116. And we have Charles Gamar. He was born on August 4th, 1955. He flew on STS 38, 48, and 62. Then we have Andrew Allen, born August 4th, 1955. He flew STS 46, 62, and 75. Next we have Michael J. McCulley. Let's see here. Maybe I can pull him up. Let's see. Yeah, I think I can. Oh, there we go. He was on, well, maybe not. He was born in 1943 and was on STS 34. Next, I think you all know this guy. Neil Armstrong was born on August 5th, 1930. He flew on Gemini 8 and Apollo 11. Next up, this week in space history, on July 30th, 1971, the first lunar roving vehicle, or LRV, was delivered to the surface of the moon by the crew of Apollo 15. They explored the lunar surface until August 2nd before flying back home, leaving the LRV on the moon, which, by the way, was pretty cool because it had batteries and a camera that was controlled from NASA, and we were able to watch the liftoff live from the moon from the lunar rover. On August 4th, 2007, was an uncrewed space probe that landed on the surface of Mars on May 25th, 2008, and operated until November 2nd, 2008. Phoenix was operational on Mars for 157 sols, or 161 Earth days. Its instruments were used to assess the local habitability and to research the history of water on Mars. The mission was part of the Mars Scout program, and its total cost was $420 million, including the cost of the launch. The mission had two goals. One was to study the geological history of water, the key to unlocking the story of past climate change. The second was to evaluate past or potential planetary habitability in this space ice-soil boundary. Phoenix instruments were suitable for uncovering information on the geological and possibly biological history of the Martian Arctic. Phoenix was the first mission to return data from either of the poles and contributed to NASA's main strategy for Mars exploration: follow the water. On this day, August 3rd of 2004, well, I guess on August 3rd, 2004, the Messenger spacecraft was launched to explore the planet closest to the Sun. During its mission, Messenger uncovered new facets of Mercury, such as offset magnetic field, polar water ice, and evidence of volcanism. A 2008 image from Flyby 1 shows the planet pockmarked surface in full color. This high-resolution mosaic of WAC, that's wide-angle camera, images shows Mercury as it appeared to Messenger as the spacecraft departed the planet following the mission's first flyby of Mercury. This mosaic uses the same WAC images as the previous mosaic that was posted a few weeks after the flyby, but with slight improvements in the image processing and color stretch. You can get that up on screen. It is pretty cool. And Bill, that's it from this end. Back to you. This is KE5 ICX.
Very good. Thank you, Tom. Next, do we have any additional check-ins, questions, comments? This is Skynet N5BB, net controller.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India, WB4MFI, Ted Dallas, low power, late check-in, but I've been listening.
And I recognize Ted, WB4MFI. Good to hear you, Ted. I know your normal procedure. It's working out fine. Do we have any additional check-ins, comments, or questions? This is N5BB, Skynet. I see nobody else on Echolink. And Chaz is commenting about Bob the Cat, who, I don't know if Bob the Cat stargazes. I doubt it. If Bob the Cat goes outside, probably it's more interested in flying insects than things in the sky. Flying insects and flying birds. Okay, next we have Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week by Chaz, KF5JHA. Take it away, Chaz. This is N5BB. Skynet is in progress.
Thank you, Bill. This is KF5JHA. And yes, I believe I heard one of Tom's housemates in the background right at the beginning of his last segment that he did. That's why I was commented that I was lucky tonight that Bob the Cat wanted outside just before Skynet began. So, Miss Carolyn's, this is slide number 16. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total number of constellations, So Miss Caroline covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Caroline's constellation of the week this week is Sagittarius the Centaur. Now, Sagittarius is a mythological creature that's half human and half horse, and Sagittarius is an archer. But for most people, Sagittarius looks like a teapot. Now, right here where I would insert a song, but I can't do that because of FCC regulations. You know, I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here's my handle and here's my spout. The amazing thing is that the teapot is a hot teapot. You can see the steam coming out of the spout and spanning the entire sky. The steam is actually the Milky Way. Wow, that's pretty cool. In September, the Milky Way runs from the southwestern sky almost straight overhead all the way over to the northeastern sky. So it's a beautiful thing seeing that steam coming out of Sagittarius. Slide Master, what everyone's been waiting for the entire night long. Yes, Clay just came in on Echolink so he could hear this. The jokes of the week. All right, slide number 17, jokes of the week. Did you hear about the man who was hospitalized with 6 plastic horses inside of him? The doctor described his condition as stable. Don't think about it too long. What did the horse say when it fell? I've fallen and I can't giddy up. Yeah, that's a commercial from a long time ago. How do you know a horse is sick? You know, when he's a pony, or, you know, a little horse. How do you make a small fortune on horse racing? Well, you start with a large fortune. What side of the horse has the most hair? Now, somebody should be able to come up with the answer to this. Clay already is saying woohoo on Echolink about my jokes. Thank you very much, Clay. I appreciate that. Yes, I try to do simultaneous things all the time. So, what side of the horse has the most hair? Well, of course, it's the outside. And the last one of the jokes in this sequence is, a horse walks into the bar, and the bartender says, "Hey!" And the horse says, "Buddy, you read my mind." Slide Master, slide number 18. Help me get out of this, please. Usually I like to talk about a few stars in the constellation of the week, but not this week. Sagittarius happens to be in the direction of the center of the Milky Way galaxy, so at the center of the Milky Way is a black hole with mass more than 1 million of our suns. The constellation of Sagittarius is full of globular clusters, open clusters, nebula, and much more. So I'll talk only about one double star, Nunki. Nunki is located at the handle of Teapot. Yeah, we just talked about the Teapot. The primary star is 227 light years away from us and shines at second magnitude. The spectroscopic secondary star is a binary, is too close to see visually, but there's a close by 9th magnitude star that I use for astronomy students at Brookhaven campus to observe as a visual binary. Slide Master, slide number 19, please. M8, in other words, the 8th object on Charles Messier's list of his famous 110 objects. M8 is the famous Lagoon Nebula. It's easily visible to the naked eye from dark sky sight. M8 is obviously a nebula, and even the smallest instruments, binoculars, finder scopes, and small aperture telescopes. The associated open cluster NGC 6530 is easily seen in a small telescope as well. The nebulosity appears weakest around the cluster, the star cluster. Slide Master, slide number 20, please. Messier object number 20 is the Trifid Nebula. Now, what makes this object so famous is that it's one of the pictures used on the bridge of the Starship Enterprise on the original TV Star Trek series. Yeah, the original one. You can see the nebulosity, both the brighter red emission nebula and the fainter blue reflection nebula, but it is hard to see the dark dust lanes that are streaked across the emission nebula and through, unless you have a moderate-sized telescope. With averted vision, you can just barely start to see some of the dark lanes. As Dave Hutchinson so aptly pointed out in the TASS Spectrum newsletter article, that M20 contains all three types of nebula: emission nebula, reflection nebula, and dark nebula. M17 is also known as the Swan or Omega Nebula. This nebula's swan appearance is easy to make out. It is one happy and thrilled observer at the upper observing field at the recent Texas Star Party shouted, for everyone to hear, "It really does look like a swan!" The brightest part of the nebula makes a shape much like a check mark. The name Omega Nebula comes from the curved portion of the nebula that forms the swan's neck and head. Some observers have likened it to the curved shape of the Greek letter Omega. Slide Master, slide number 22, which is, interestingly enough, my object M22 on my list. And it is a beautiful globular cluster. This is what a globular cluster is supposed to look like. It resolves into dozens of stars, even at a 41 power. At higher power view, it's a visual treat with the core almost totally resolved and many bright individual stars visible. M22 is one of the showpiece globular clusters, along with M13, M5, 47, Toucan, and Omega Centauri. Of course, Omega Centauri is the one that everyone wants to look at, and you can see it from here in North Texas, but you've got to be away from the city lights and have a clear southern horizon. There's so many other globular clusters that can be talked about, like M54, M70, M69, M28, M55, M75, and much more. I'm afraid that would take up to about another 20 minutes or so of our precious airtime, and that would put us at the end of Skynet. So let me move on to just one more object, a planetary nebula. That would be slide number 23, please. In the new general catalog, NGC 6818, or the little gem nebula, is a nice planetary nebula. Unlike many planetary nebulas that look star-like at low power, this little gem is fairly obvious. At high power, it is round and gray with a hint of some faint outer wisps. It is large enough and bright enough that it has earned a place in the Astronomical League Urban Observing Club. So you should be able to see it in moderate-sized telescopes inside the city. And this is KF5 JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 24, please. There are a lot more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Sagittarius the Centaur. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. Now, the Astronomical League has, at last count, 77 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. Now, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year. Slide Master, slide number 25, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Sagittarius the Centaur. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I've used, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next time I'll take a look at Lyra the Harp. Maybe we can sing a song then. Nope, can't do that. FCC says we can't. And this is KF5 JHA saying 73 and sending it back to our net control. Bill, N5BB, it's all yours.
But you won't be here next week, Chaz. Are you going to prepare something that somebody else can read, or does somebody else have to come up with your presentation?
It is already prepared and uploaded into my Google Drive, and so anybody has access to that, they can do it. So I'm voting for whoever wants to volunteer first. They become Chaz for a night next week.
Well, very good, Chaz. So if anybody on here has a cat named Bob, you're obviously our first choice for being Chaz next week. But even if you don't have a cat named Bob, you too could read the Chaz's section there. And he probably has jokes in it, so you could probably also read his jokes if you can stomach them. Okay, let's move forward. Do we have any additional check-ins? Nobody else is on Echolink, unfortunately. Do we have any additional check-ins to Skynet or any comments or questions? This is N5BB, net control for Skynet.
This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay Embassy.
Very good, Clay, N50F, N5BB. I know I forgot about you. You were in there on Echolink, but then you dropped off the Echolink and you came in on RF, but that's fine. Good to hear you on. Clay and Mesquite. Do we have any other check-ins? Okay, now Tom, K5ICX, this is N5BB, Skynet net control. Although we have plenty of time, just to be careful, why don't you go ahead, if you don't mind, and read Brenda's recent astronomical discoveries first, and then we can go through the launches and everything else afterwards. Does that sound good? K5ICX and 5BB.
Yeah, I'll be happy to do that, Bill. It's probably more interesting than my launch info anyway. So, again, this is provided by Brenda, WB50ZL. She is out there. Go ahead and check her in, too, Bill, since she's here in spirit, but she's also listening in. She submitted this article from Science Daily, and it says the following: new exoplanet discovery builds better understanding of planet formation. It says the newly discovered gas giant named TOI 4860b is an unusual planet for two reasons. Stars of such low mass are not expected to host planets like Jupiter, and the planet appears to be particularly enriched by heavy elements. The study, led by the University of Birmingham astronomers, is published today. That was Friday, August 4th, to be exact, in a letter published within the monthly notices of the Royal Astronomical Society. The planet was initially identified using NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite as a drop of brightness while transiting, in front of its host star. But the data alone was insufficient to confirm that it was a planet. The team used the Speculoos, the South Observatory, located at the Atacama Desert in Chile, to measure the planetary signal in several wavelengths and validated the planetary nature. The astronomers also observed the planet just before and after it disappeared behind its host star, noticing that there was no change in light, meaning the planet was not emitting any. Finally, the team collaborated with a Japanese group using the Sapporo telescope in Hawaii. Together, they measured the mass of the planet to fully confirm it. Following the star and confirming its planet was the initiative of the group of PhD students within the Speculoos project. George Dranfield, one of those PhD students who recently submitted her thesis at the University of Birmingham, explains under the canonical massive is the disk of material around that star. Since planets are created from that disk, high-mass planets like Jupiter were likely expected not to form. However, we were curious about this and wanted to check planetary candidates to see if it was possible. TOI 4860 is our first confirmation and also the lowest mass star hosting such a high-mass planet. Omri Truad, a professor of exoplanetology at the University of Birmingham, who led the study, said, "I am ever thankful to the bright PhD students of our team for proposing to observe systems like TOA 4860. Their work has really paid off, since planets like that are vital to deepening our understanding of planet formation. A hint of what might have happened is hidden in the planetary properties, which appear particularly enriched by heavy elements. We have detected something similar in the host star, too, so it is likely that the abundance of heavy elements catalyzed the planet formation process. The new gas planet takes about 1.52 days to complete a full orbit around its host star, but because its host is a cool, cold, low-mass star, that planet itself can be referred to as a warm Jupiter. This is a subclass of planets that holds particular interest for astronomers looking to build their initial observations and learn more about how these kinds of planets are formed. Mathilde Timmermans, another student at Speculus Project, working at the University of Liège in Belgium, concludes, thanks to its very short orbital period and to the properties of its host star, the discovery of TOI 4860b provides a brilliant opportunity to study the atmospheric properties of a warm Jupiter and learn more about how gas giants are formed. Recently, the team has been awarded telescope time at the Very Large Telescope in Chile, which they intend to use to confirm several more planets with similar properties. And again, this article comes from ScienceDaily.com, where you can get this same information on health, tech, environment, society, and quirky stuff, as well as the geeky science news I just read to you. It's a great site. You should check it out. Let's see. Next up, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. Let me just give you, what time is it? 10:16? Oh, my. Well, that's interesting. Please stand by. All right, well, I'm going to skip Tiangong because there's some sort of an error going on there, so I'll just go to the Hubble Space Telescope. This one has several passes coming up, sequential days, by the way. August 6th has a 1.2 magnitude at 5:42 a.m. It'll be out of the south at 5:44, and it will fall at 5:48 to the east-southeast. August 7th has a very similar pass, 1.2 magnitude at 5:27, about 20 minutes earlier the following day at 30 degrees. It'll reach its highest point at rise 43 degrees at 5:29, and it'll fall to the east-southeast at 5:33. Then on August 8th, 1.1 magnitude. This one will be at 5:13 a.m. at 40 degrees out of the south-southwest. It'll reach 43 degrees at 5:14 in the south, and it will fall to the east-southeast at 5:18. And then finally, August 9th, 1.3 magnitude. This one we'll see at 4:59 a.m. at 41 degrees. It'll reach its highest point at 41 degrees at 4:59, and it'll fall to the south-southeast at 5:03. So there you have it, Bill. Not sure why I couldn't bring up Hubble Space, but at any rate, we had a runtime error, or Tianvong. The ISS did not have any favorable passes, by the way, which is why I skipped it. So, short and sweet tonight. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB Skynet. Do we have any additional check-ins, comments, or questions? This is N5BB, Net Control. Okay. I might want to comment that the OSIRIS-REx sample return mission from the Bennu asteroid is scheduled to land in Utah desert on September the 24th. Just in, what is that, about 6 weeks from now? So be looking for that, 6 or 7 weeks. The OSIRIS-REx Bennu sample return. And the spacecraft is going to continue flying past the Earth and go off to try to do an additional rendezvous. Not to do its sample return, but to do other science. So, interesting things happening there with asteroids. Okay, do we have any additional check-ins, comments, or questions? This is N5BB, Skynet. K5ICX, N5BB, Tom. Because I put things out of order, I've now gotten confused. Are there any other items? I know we're running early, which is unusual. Are there any other items that you would like to read? Any kind of news involving launches or other kinds of things? This is N5BB.
Nope, I didn't have anything prepared outside of what we just talked about. So, no, unless you want to talk about Apollo 15, but let's not. Let's give everybody a 10-minute break, and we'll come back and do, as soon as you finish up, and then we'll do Afterglow, MovieNet, and Oblivion. How's that?
I like it. We're early. We're early. So as opposed to we're late for a very important date. We're early. Okay. So, last call, 73 rounds. Any additional check-ins, comments, questions, remarks before I close the net? Any astronomical questions or for anybody? This is N5BB, Skynet, last chance. I see no new stations, so I will close the net. Hang on here while I do a count. This is N5BB, Skynet, net control. Including Brenda, WB50ZL, we have 20 stations checked in this evening. I think it's the summer slowdown. Thanks to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, send an email to nets, that's NETS, at w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions in general on Facebook and Twitter, etc., etc. Go and look at w5fc.org and you'll find more links. Until next Saturday night, this is N5BB closing this net. And I want to remind everybody as I close it here that there are events coming up at local venues that you could go to that are space related. And let me go back up to my notes. This thing is too long. The venues are at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History on August the 26th, Saturday. There is Space Day. And then on August the 12th and September the 2nd, National Space Society will be at the Garland and Beyond Space Exhibit at Garland City Hall. 73, everybody. Skynet will start in now about 6 minutes, about 10:30. Go powder your nose and come back ready to talk about a movie. This is N5BB closing Skynet. Good night.
He's right. We'll be back in about 6 minutes. Do what you need to do and come on back. The movie tonight is Oblivion from 2013. See that? KE5ICX.
That sounds very cheery, Tom. What could possibly go wrong with a movie with a name like Oblivion? I was too tired and busy today to watch it, so I'm not going to participate. Good evening, and 5BB clear.
Normal state.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
All right, it is time for the Afterglow Movie Net. This one called Oblivion from 2013. Now, it has an interesting history just for us here, and that is that I put this thing out actually 3 weeks ago, I guess it was, and scheduled it actually for next week. But then our movie that we were going to watch disappeared. I can't remember what it was, but it came off the list. And then I went to check for Oblivion. It came off the list, and I did find it again. And I thought, oh, good, we can watch Oblivion after all. I didn't pay real close attention because, for whatever reason, that copy on YouTube was there and probably shouldn't be, and they had added little things like some weird piano music in the background and a kind of zoom in, zoom out type of thing that I didn't notice when I did a cursory review of it. So people who watched it, you have my hats off, and you managed to get through most or all of it. Congratulations, that was a little bit harder to watch. But if you did, I think you were rewarded with a reasonably good movie. Could have probably been better, but overall it did have some interesting and good qualities to it. Ranking it better than average, at least in my book. All right, so the Afterglow Movie Net, of course, we talk about the movie, we talk about the plot, followed by characterization, followed by special effects, music, and anything else you want to talk about. Or if you don't want to talk about the movie, that's perfectly fine too. You don't have to have seen the movie to check in on this net. We'll probably come back and ask you, would you want to go see it after what you've heard? Or does this sound like something you've seen or heard of before, and did you like that? Because many of these films have similar plots, so it's pretty easy to finger another movie that probably was better anyway. The first thing we do, though, is I'm going to go ahead and read a synopsis, a little bit about the movie. This one's fairly elaborate, so I may skip around or just skip whole in sections, but I will give you a little bit about the film and its origins. This is from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. It says Oblivion is a 2013 American post-apocalyptic action-adventure film produced and directed by Joseph Kosinski from a screenplay by Carl, whatever his name is, and Michael De Bruyne. Starring Tom Cruise, yes, riding a motorcycle too in the main role, along with Morgan Freeman and some other people. Based on Kosinski's unpublished graphic novel of the same name, the film pays homage to 1970 sci-fi and is a love story set in 2017 on an Earth desolated by an alien war. Maintenance technician on the verge of completing his mission finds a woman who survived in a spaceship crash, leading him to question his purpose and discover the truth about the war. Oblivion premiered in Buenos Aires, of all places, on March 26, 2013, was released in theaters in the Universal on the 19th, April 19th. The film grossed $286 million worldwide and production budget $130 million and received mixed reviews from critics. I suspect most of that gross is because Tom Cruise was in it. All right, so here's the plot. As it says, Jack and Victoria, the last ones left on Earth in 2077. In 2017, scavenger aliens destroyed the moon and invaded Earth. Although humans won the war, Earth was left uninhabitable. With Victoria as his communications officer, Jack repairs combat drones and hunts remaining scavengers and guards the hydrothermal platforms that convert seawater into fusion energy. The work is reported to Sally, the mission commander aboard the TET space station orbiting Earth once a day. Within 2 weeks, the group will be departing for Saturn's moon Titan to join the surviving colonists there. Though Jack and Victoria's memories have been wiped, Jack dreams of pre-war life with an unknown woman. He escapes the scavenger trap while searching for a disabled drone inside New York's public library ruins. Meanwhile, the platform is destroyed. Jack discovers that scavengers are radioing coordinates from the Empire State Building antenna and sends transmissions to outer space. He follows nearby waterfalls to visit the secret area which sustains vegetation, has a lake with fish and potable water. Lakeside cabin he built is filled with mementos of Earth's past. An unidentified object falls from the sky to the transmitted coordinates. Jack finds 5 humans in sleep pods there, including a woman in his dreams. The drone destroys 4 pods, but Jack saves the woman and takes her to his and Victoria's aerial base. The woman, Julia Ruskova, revives and says she is a NASA astronaut who has been sleeping aboard Odyssey's spaceship since 2017. Jack and Julia return to the crash to retrieve Odyssey's flight recorder, but the scavengers capture and take them to the Raven Rock Mountain Complex. The leader, Malcolm Beach, reveals the scavengers are disguised human survivors hiding from the drones. Beach frees Jack and Julia into the desert area that Jack knows as the deadly radiation zone so they can discover the truth themselves. Julia reveals she is Jack's wife, which triggers his memory of proposing to her on the Empire State Building. Victoria sends an aircraft to retrieve Jack and Julia. She's heartbroken seeing their closeness and reports Sally that she and Jack are no longer an effective team. Sally dispatches a drone that kills Victoria. Jack and Julia flee in a jet and destroy the drones chasing them, but they crash in the desert with a drone of Jack. The clone of Jack arrives to fix disabled drones. Jack incapacitates him, but Julia is shot during their fight. Jack impersonates the clone to return to its base for medical supplies. There he encounters the clone of Victoria. Jack then takes Julia to his cabin where she recovers. She tells him that the cabin resembles the one they had in 2017. They spend the night together. The next morning they go back to Raven Rock, intending to return to the cabin once the war is over. Beach tells him that Tet is an alien ship with an artificial intelligence extracting Earth's natural resources. It destroyed the moon, causing planet-wide catastrophic earthquakes and tsunamis, then invaded with an army of Jack clones. The escape to Titan and humanity's victory are fictional. The survivors that had to bring down the Odyssey spacecraft to obtain its nuclear reactor, which is suitable for interplanetary travel. Jack reprograms a captured drone to sabotage the Tet with a bomb, but other drones attack the base. Beach is gravely injured, and the captured drone is damaged beyond repair. Jack and Julia volunteer to manually deliver a bomb to the Tet. En route to the Tet, Jack learns from the Odyssey's flight recorder that he was cloned from a NASA mission commander, Jack Harper, who was on a mission to explore Titan. Victoria was his co-pilot, Julia, a crew member, and Sally, the Earth mission director. After the mission was interrupted by Tet's arrival, Jack separated the control capsule to save the crew members in their stasis pods. He and Victoria were captured and cloned. Jack enters the Tet and discovers thousands of clones of his and Victoria in stasis. The Tet projection of Sally confronts Jack. Jack offers Julia to Sally, but it is Beach who emerges from the pod. The two detonate the bomb, destroying the Tet and themselves. Meanwhile, Julia awakens from her pod by the cabin. She is on the side of the canvas from the Christina's World painting she and Jack saw on the Raven Rock. 3 years after the explosion seen in the sky, Julia and her and Jack's daughter orchard and built a wooden boat. One day, surviving resistance members arrived with the help of the clone that Jack had previously subdued in the desert. The impassioned clone recovered the original Jack's memories as well. There you have it. That was this movie, and if you understood what I just read, you're a better person than me. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if we've got anybody out there that wants to talk about this movie. I will take check-ins. Please come with your call sign, please, your name, and did you see Oblivion from 2013? Even if you haven't seen it recently, it's okay to check in and tell us about it anyhow. So please come now. Am I going to get any check-ins tonight? Is everybody scared of Oblivion from 2013?
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this film.
Okay, this is looking very, very sad, but I've got NV5F Virginia in Fort Worth. She said, I think yesterday that then I read somewhere that the piano music that was meant to kind of subvert the AI at YouTube was driving you insane. Are you insane? And do you want to admit that you saw any part of the movie?
I did. I got about 40 minutes into it, and the whole thing was the way it was subverting AI was so distracting. I couldn't, and the story wasn't, and the story was not interesting enough for me to withstand the torture. So I saw part of it in V5F.
All right, good enough. I understand, and I feel your pain. I actually thought I remembered this being a better movie than it was, but I was wrong. Okay, I've got you down as maybe yes, and KB9 is okay. Sean, Fort Worth, yes, you saw the movie. Anyone else want to check in this evening? Maybe a short nap, but if you remember Oblivion from 2013 and you want to talk about it, then here's your opportunity. If you don't remember anything or you want to just check in, please do so now. All right, Brenda's out there, WB50ZL. She's going to write some notes about it, I think, and send them to us. Well, this can be a quick net, so unless we get additional check-ins, but that's understandable. I don't blame anybody. I almost went insane listening to the little weird piano music going on in the background and the zoom in. If I had paid closer attention, I don't generally just sit there and watch the movie. I wait until Friday evening. I just check it to see if it looks like it's complete, but don't always do a super thorough check, which is what I should have done with this film. But they fooled me. They fooled the AI and they fooled Tom. All right, well, let's give it a shot. NB5F, Virginia, you're top of the list. From what you saw of the film, what did you think about the plot? Not much, I guess. Why do you think it was lacking?
Well, it was a common, I guess, post-apocalyptic plot. Like I said, the audio was so bad. Even in addition to the terrible, tracks that they kept running, the audio for it was pretty bad. So it was kind of hard to figure out what was. I could tell basically what was going on, but it was kind of standard, where he goes to the stadium and he's reliving the last Super Bowl in 2017, and then he goes to the Empire State Building, and they made sure to have a lot of recognizable things, because we love to have that in movies where it's something we know really well has been destroyed, and so they had I guess those drones were there the drones were guarding the fusion generators that were somehow using salt water for fusion, which, heck, that would be awesome if we could do that. But it was just, there were a lot of movies in this era, and I guess there still are, but it seems like in that era, about 8 to 10 years ago, there were these kind of dreary dreary movies about what the future might be like, and so this just kind of seemed like one of those, and I was so distracted I didn't even, really get the thing about the ship coming or who was sending the signal, or I did think it was interesting. He finds the signal being generated in the top of the Empire State Building, and he it's this big transmitter, and they're looking at it on the, decrypting it or whatever, and then he's like, oh, I need to stop the signal, and he gets out this pair of, flush cutters or something and just cuts a wire and stops it. I thought that was interesting. And I thought the little thing where he had his sort of little secret nature preserve where he goes, and he's like, I'm going off comms, and then he just goes and hides for a few minutes. I thought that was kind of interesting. And then of course it was your standard Tom Cruise stuff with motorcycles and make out scenes underwater, which is ridiculous. It's hard enough to get air when you're making out and you're not in the water. So making out underwater is stupid because you can't even see anything underwater. People has anyone here ever opened their eyes underwater? I mean, come on, you can't see anything. Anyway, I'm just trying to comment on anything I can think of to comment on. I think it would have been, I wouldn't mind giving this one another try without all the nonsense. I might see if Prime or somebody has it come up where I can actually see it. It might even be on Paramount. There was lots of zoom-ins, and I guess that was the AI stuff to fool the AI. Because I was like, why are there all these weird close-ups on Tom Cruise's mouth and his tiny nostrils? I wasn't quite sure if is that the style. And at first I thought the piano music was some kind of weird, minimalistic soundtrack. Because there's movies that actually have soundtracks like that now, which I hate. I can't stand minimalism. So at first I thought it was some kind of I couldn't tell what was going on, and then about 20 minutes in, I was like, okay, this is just you could tell from the title of the movie, it was written by somebody in India or something, full English movie, Hollywood or whatever. So anyway, I'm just trying to say anything I can think of to say because there's not very many people, and I haven't seen the whole movie, so I thought there was stuff in it that if it weren't just so weird, the way it was presented weren't so weird, I think I might have been able to stick with it, but it was kind of depressing me. So anyway, that's about all I have on the plot. The synopsis you read from Wikipedia made it seem at least a little interesting, and it's got reversals, and the Jack clones thing is kind of funny. That might be kind of amusing. So anyway, I may give this one another go at some time in the future. KE5 ICX NV5F.
All right, well, thank you, Virginia. You managed to pull out more to talk about on the film than probably I will, so congratulations, even though you didn't see it all. Yeah, we had one other one like this, and I forget what it was. Something on Mars it was, and they fooled me, too. I thought it was just a regular movie that they were offering on YouTube. It had good quality in that. The problem with it was that they cut it back so far that the scenes didn't make any sense. And when I did my cursory inspection, like on this one, the quality is good. In this case, I thought too that there was a minimalistic score, so I didn't think anything about that. I thought that at the very beginning when I heard his voice, I thought it was some sort of a weird voiceover, like it was coming over a television set or something that they were watching. I was wrong in both counts, and I got fooled the first time around. This is the second time I got fooled by this sort of thing. So, yeah, it was very annoying. The zoom-ins, of course, were to defeat the algorithm matching that they do when they see copyrighted material. So I don't know what to say. I don't feel guilty about it because the movie was actually available a week ago. in all its glory, so I don't know, they just don't run them for very long. Okay, next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, what do you want to say about this fine film that we picked for this week, KE5ICX?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, yeah, it was a little rough, so I actually bit the bullet and rented the movie for $3. Just because I didn't want to watch the copy of it. But no big deal. Yes, it is much better when you can watch it without the annoying music and the weird close-ups. To start off with, I'm probably among the few, but I'm not a Tom Cruise fan. For some reason, his acting just kind of gets on my nerves. I typically skip his films. And so I didn't watch this when it came out, even though it did get a little bit of buzz, positive and negative. So I was curious to see it. As Virginia alluded to, the beginning of this film was rough to kind of watch. It was very dreary, very slow. I felt the pacing was just kind of almost painful at times. For some reason, and even to the date, they seem to like these dreary-looking films. And I think a lot of it, too, is just to cover up the CG, because clearly there was more CG than you can shake a stick at. I'm pretty sure this whole thing was probably green screen. But besides that, the story did start to actually get better in the second half. I was really worried about where this was going. It's like, this has got to pick up, and luckily, it did get better. There was a few nice twists and turns in this. Typically, seen enough of these sci-fi things, I usually can pick up on these cues and figure it out for the end. But I didn't see the clone thing coming until they, mentioned it. So I thought that was interesting. And not that this was original, but it was one of the few films that it started out to where, what they insinuated were the bad guys or the aliens was actually the humans that survived the war. And it was actually the bad guys that were using the clones to, help protect so they could get the fuel for their ship. And apparently they go from galaxy to galaxy. This is how they collect their fuel and just keep traveling. What exactly there just seems to be an AI running the ship. And if they did mention that, I don't know. Yeah, I think they briefly talked about why the ship was moving from area to area, but there was no actual alien life form essentially on the ship. It seemed like it was just all AI driven. I don't know if it was an exploratory type vessel or what, but obviously it had the ability to clone the local people at each place and use essentially your own people against yourself. So I thought the concept was kind of interesting. Of course, as mentioned, we get out of Tom Cruise on a motorcycle. Of course, he has to do some fancy flying in his little ship, Top Gun style. So it's not surprising there. That was kind of, once again, he's flying down corridors in between cliffs. And, essentially, they stole that clearly right off Top Gun and during the sci-fi part. But I do feel that the movie did pick up there towards the end. Has a few nice twists and turns, and the fact that he was a clone. So it is better than I expected, because I typically don't have super high hopes for Tom Cruise movies. But I would classify this as okay. Definitely a lot better than a few of the snickers we watched recently. Is it my favorite Tom Cruise movie? No. Is my favorite sci-fi? No. But, I'd give it a, B minus, B plus, somewhere in there. It's worth a watch. I would just, if you find a good copy, skip to about the middle where you left off. That first part was pretty rough. It was kind of senseless. But, all in all, I'd just give it an okay. So, back to net, KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. I kind of agree with you on that, but I'll save my comments a little bit. Now, Brenda did type some stuff up here. She sent me over here on the chat. Her feelings about the film, and she says, first, Tom Cruise must have done something really terrible so that someone could blackmail him into starring in this abomination. So she didn't like the film, I guess. I don't know why. It had Tom Cruise in it. She likes Tom Cruise, usually. Got to have an F-14 Tomcat, usually. Will make her happier, though. I would have thought he would have read scripts before agreeing to star in the movie. The story was obscure and not particularly interesting, And she said, now, more flaws. The close-ups of ears and noses and large pores was disgusting. I thought the music was intentional and artsy. It drove me insane. Well, yes, this was all done to thwart YouTube, not an artistic. Was annoying. That was the gal doing. We make an effective team. I agree with it. It was pretty terrible, fake Southern accent. So, all right. So I've got Brenda's comments on the film. She didn't like it as much as she's liked other Tom Cruise movies. Let me ask, is there anybody else that would like to check in? Tonight's movie we were discussing is Oblivion from 2013, the Tom Cruise science fiction film. If you would like to join us, please come with your call now.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf. Cruise in Arlington. I fell asleep on you all. I saw this film long ago. I don't remember how long, but long and almost long enough. Didn't think much of it. So I really don't have any comments on the film other than, well, that's it. That was my check-in. I forgot. That's where I am. Give me a moment to wake up.
All right, Cruz, I got you checked in, KI5KWG. Well, I'll still come back to you. I know you saw part of the film because you watched it with us until your brain exploded because of the musical background. That wasn't very musical. Okay, I'll make my comments then on this one. I found this movie, the first time I saw it, I think I saw it in the theater. In fact, I did see it in the theater. We may have even seen it as a group when we were doing one of our field trips. I seem to recall that was a possibility, but I did go see it in the theater because it looked pretty good. The previews looked really good. And I managed to kind of just lose it in the middle of the film because I fell asleep during it. It was a matinee on a Sunday, if I remember correctly. I have a tendency to get sleepy in the afternoon, especially after I eat. In this case, it would have been brunch, and I probably fell asleep, woke up, and said, I'm not sure what's going on in this film. Well, watching it last night and trying to stay awake, and I still don't know what was going on. The first time this really made any tertiary sense to me was the plot that I just read. If I'm having problems with the film and I can't concentrate on the plot and the story, then I don't think you're going to get a lot of people that are going to do repeats and see this movie again. It's glacially slow. The plot is simplistic, but then complicated, too. What about the aliens? Why did they come here? Oh, we had to do the clone thing. And, oh, by the way, you'll notice at the very beginning we had voiceovers. Anytime you have the protagonist voiceover explaining everything that happened, you can be guaranteed that the film itself is going to be difficult to follow. There's a couple of things that kind of did not make sense to me. Now, it appeared that they did de-age Tom Cruise in this playing Jack. The black and white sequence when it's 2017 or maybe even a little earlier, he looks like Tom Cruise of the 80s or 90s maybe. Since this movie was 2013. So, and then you get the close-ups, obviously, because of the weirdness they did. But, yeah, it was okay, but the year is supposed to be 2077. So we're talking 60 years in the future. Let's say he was 20 or 25. That would make him, what, 80, 85 years old? He didn't look 80, 85 years old. Now, I admit there's some wear and tear on him, but not that much. Not at the time that he made this movie. So how do they explain that? Why it is that, and I don't know. I know he's a clone. I understand that, and maybe it's supposed to be a clue, perhaps. But from a story standpoint, it doesn't make a lot of sense. The twist ending was okay, having to do with the fact that it was the aliens that set us up with all of this. You were right, I was wrong. It was Earth all along, so you did make a monkey out of me. You know, stop the world, stop the Planet of the Apes, I Want to Get Off, or whatever the heck it was, the musical from The Simpsons. It is kind of like that. In fact, there was a lot of kind of like Planet of the Apes post-apocalyptic sensibility in the film, too, with all of the special effects that they had, which was okay, I guess. But it just, it was confusing to me. I guess it was okay that they had all the clones and everything was done by AI. I could kind of understand that from the standpoint that if you're going to do interstellar travel, that you would send a robot to kind of mine the Earth and do all the things that you needed to do, I suppose, to take over, and you wouldn't have a lot of people here. But what's the point of doing that in the end? If you're not going to stick around, you're not actually going to use Earth for anything. Are they going home? I don't know. Motivation of the aliens didn't make a lot of sense. Use as an AI, I suppose it did. And what was the giant eyeball for AI? That was kind of silly, I thought. So I don't know. Had some 2001 sensibility to it with them flying inside the big giant upside down pyramid thing. So in the end, I guess, I don't think it knew where it wanted to go or what it wanted to be when it grew up. So not so sure. It'll come back to special effects in a little bit. So, Cruz, you got anything you want to say at this point? I gave you some time to kind of like wake up, get some, throw some ice on your face and, that sort of thing. Hopes that you might have something to say. You got anything to say about the plot before I send it back up to Virginia?
KI5 KWG, I should have slept longer. We're only into the plot part still. Yeah, I think the only impression I had from my original viewing of it and my attempt last night was this wasn't a story to me. It was like a story idea, and like they signed people up and got Morgan Freeman and Tom Cruise and to go for this idea before it was developed, and then they did nothing to make it a complete story. That's my impression of it. It was it was never stitched together. It was just an idea. That's what I've got. KI5 KWG. Back to net.
Oh, yes. You make a good point, and I think that's what happens. A lot of science fiction films fall on their face when you can't flesh out a good story concept. Somebody comes up with a good idea, and then they can't really execute it. And we've seen that happens with a lot of just amateur productions that we've seen. Small art house films that have a great idea, and they even are compelling at the beginning, and they fall flat because they don't know what to do with them. Well, here's a big budget motion picture with the same problem. You're absolutely right. What were they trying to do with all of this in the end? And maybe that's, you're trying to have a lot of discussion, you have a lot of nothing going on, a lot of moments of empty space, literally. Oh well. All right, let's go back up to the top. We'll talk about characterization. So, Virginia, what did you think of Tom Cruise, Morgan Freeman, and the whole gang that starred in this thing, and the characterization, too, of our clones, Jack and Victoria, from KE5ICX?
K5ICX and the net. This is Virginia. I actually drank something with caffeine in it a little while ago because I had a little snooze right after TechNet. I crashed for about 30 minutes and didn't realize how long it had been until I looked at the clock. So, hats off to anyone who can just, we all need our power nap. This, first, my main thing, you're talking about ideas falling apart. I do think that happens with science fiction movies a lot because people, you know, you got to find that balance between Star Wars and 2001. Like, how is it going to be fun and adventurous, or is it going to be feasible and believable? And then 2001, of course, has the trippy, you know, just the trippy out of left field aliens thing. But they introduced that at the beginning with the monolith, so that's what you're supposed to do. You know, you're supposed to put the weirdness right up front. You can't just throw it in there later. And I think that's why these kind of things fall apart, is because you get a little ways into it, and then they're like, oh, let's have clones and, you know, all that. I mean, I think the twist about the scavengers being humans kind of makes sense. You know, that kind of stuff happens a lot. But, yeah, like you said, with the narration at the beginning, whenever a movie starts with the narration, it means that they couldn't convey, they couldn't get into the setup quick enough. You're supposed to be able to get, really, the setup needs to be done in like 10 pages, you know, and they can't get a setup accomplished, so they've got to do narration. And I remember in screenwriting, that was one of the nasty no-nos, is you don't want to start your movie with narration. It's pretty rare that that's justifiable. Also, the dreary factor in movies, that seems to be really so common now, and I think that I've noticed when I go to the movies, even when I pay money and go, I have a hard time paying attention, because setups are so long, and there's nothing really captivating. I was thinking today I hadn't seen a captivating movie in a really long time. I mean, it's been a really, and I mean captivating by, not like I liked it when I was watching it, but where I wake up thinking about it the next morning, and I, you know, just really get into a movie. I haven't gotten into a movie in like that in years. Like, it's been a long time since I met a movie that just kind of blew me away. And these movies, I used to think, well, maybe it's me, maybe my attention span just isn't what it used to be, or I think it's the movies. It's really hard for me to just pay attention to a movie. I really don't, there's not a whole lot that gets me into a movie anymore. As far as characterization, Tom Cruise, pretty much like a lot of actors on his level and pay grade, you know, he came across in the 80s with this personality that people liked. He's got a nice face. You know, he's a reasonably good actor. You know, they always have to put him on a motorcycle. You know, I mean, you know, he's done really well with the whole kind of his first big movie, like really typecasting him. He's kind of embraced that, and I'm like, yeah, I'm the dude on the motorcycle. You know, he's got to ride a motorcycle in every movie that he makes, and you know, I'm not a big fan of his overall. I don't want to watch another Mission Impossible movie. I did enjoy Top Gun Maverick last summer. I enjoyed the heck out of that. I liked it because it was a movie that you could, you know, get kind of captivated by. At least it had a great story that was simple, good guys, bad guys, a plot you could understand, some really great moments that were just out, you know, just kind of out there and a little unbelievable, but a lot of fun, and it was almost all practical effects. So I liked Top Gun Maverick, but you know, it was like, oh, you know, Tom Cruise is a nice looking, you know, guy, and he's partnered up with this really good looking gal, and they're all physically involved, and then he meets another pretty lady, and she's his wife. You find out later. I didn't make it to Morgan Freeman or any of those people, but you know, I mean, it was a high budget movie with good actors, and writing would have made the characters, I guess, more interesting, and but it's got that same feel as like another one of those movies that came out forever ago was The Passengers. It kind of has that feel to it, just kind of pretty good actors, but a hard thing to hang with so that you could enjoy them. So just difficult, not a lot of fun. So but yeah, I mean, Tom Cruise he's okay. He's good in the stuff he's good at, and I'm not I don't follow him, but and yeah, the fake Southern accent that Brenda mentioned was hilarious. I was like, come on, really? So I don't have a whole lot to say about it because I didn't hang with it long enough to really get a good grip on who the characters were. So that's I'll be quiet now. KE5ICX NV5F.
Oh, thank you, Virginia. And don't worry about it. I don't think the actors had a very good grip on what their characters were supposed to be, but that's just my opinion. Okay, Sean, KB9SOK, your thoughts on characterization and the acting on our fine film this evening, Oblivion from 2013. This is KE5ICX. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, Tom Cruise was, well, Tom Cruise. And Morgan Freeman kind of played Morgan Freeman, what they typically do. And unfortunately, I felt that both of them kind of almost phoned this one in. It did seem like a lot of effort on Morgan Freeman's an excellent actor. And Tom Cruise, even though he's not my favorite, he's okay. But even on this one, I felt it was below his typical standard even. Definitely not as good as Top Gun Maverick by no means. That was a much better movie. I agree. I think as everybody said, that I think there was a pretty good concept here. But as mentioned at the beginning, they of course did the voiceover to try to rush you into what's going on. But I really felt that they spent more time doing the voiceover, kind of bringing you up to speed with some actual dialogue and action, and then taking the ending of the movie, which basically they explain everything to you in the last 20 minutes. And that's where the movie, gets somewhat interesting, is the last 20 minutes. Now, had they actually stretched out over the entire movie, instead of having that middle part that was just so boring, well, beginning and middle, I think this actually could have been much, much, much better and would have been pretty entertaining. Because I do think there was something there, but they just, it's like they went along, drug it out, and then rushed it. And then they blew through it so quickly, you've got to really pay attention to see what was really going on there at the very end. I think they could have revealed the clone thing much earlier on, then it could have been more focused on, the rebellion, which would have made it, I think, much more interesting. On the whole Tom Cruise age thing, I believe this was supposed to be a fresh clone. That's why he looks so young. Because it's only 5 years old, because they were on a 5-year mission to protect those things. And they must send down fresh clones every 5 years. Probably the age thing there, and even in one section there, the Tom Cruise character, Jack, even made mention he didn't understand the images he was seeing because he might even alluded to he couldn't, there's no way it could be true because he would be too old. So, they did insinuate that. So those were the clues early on, because I remember thinking, yeah, that didn't make sense. There's no way that could be him. Like I said, he'd be 60 years old. So, the acting was just, wasn't that great. And then the additional actors, the two ladies in the film, they were just okay, but not great. And then the one rebellion character that was working with Morgan Freeman, I felt he was super generic in this. He went from being a real A to being Tom's best friend in a day. But anyway, this was definitely. I do think there was something there, but wish they'd spaced it out better. It could have went from a C-level movie up to maybe even an A had they paced it correctly and stretched it out. Anyway, back to net, KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. Let me see here. I'm going to go to see what Brenda says. She has some comments, and she says the following. She says a famous painting was featured in the movie, the Christina's World by Andrew Raitt. I was faintly familiar with it, but found out more tonight. Pictures a woman on the ground in the field is looking at a farmhouse in the distance. She was a real person and a neighbor and friend of Raitt. She had a muscular disease and crawled around on her farm on the ground. Is that a metaphor for this movie, perhaps? That's all she said about that. It's probably enough anyway, but oh well. Yeah, all right. Let's see. Cruise, KI5KWG. What did you think about the characterization on our fine film from KE5ICX?
KI5KWG. I thought the guy playing Tom Cruise did a great job of playing Tom Cruise. I thought the CGI robot did a pretty good job of playing a CGI robot. I didn't make it to the Morgan Freeman part. I did make it through the quite insulting as a Texan Southern accent lady. If I remember correctly how the movie ends, she's AI, right? Is that right? And so if she was playing an insulting AI person, she did a good job at that as well. So nothing but positives here for this section. KI5 KWG, back to net.
Oh, I hear you, man. That's, oh well, what can I say? Let's see. I see Bill out there, W5BLT. I don't know if he saw it or not, or if he's there, but he's one of our regulars. I see him on Echolink. But I'll go ahead and open it up. Anybody who would like to check in, if you'd like to join us this evening, we are talking about the movie Oblivion from 2013, the Tom Cruise science fiction film. If you want to join us, please come with your call now.
BLT only got halfway through this movie and gave up on it.
All right, Bill is there. I don't think you have much. Do you just want to summarize why you gave up on our fine film this evening? It had Tom Cruise in it. It had to have been good, right? What do you think? Oh, I think Bill just gave up. He just decided he didn't want to even talk about this film. Oh, well, it is a turkey. Yeah, you've got basically four characters. You've got the Morgan Freeman, Tom Cruise, the old guy, I guess. She was the one that played the gal. And Andreas Riseborough, I think, who played the mission control gal. Oh, here it is down here. As Julia, Jack's wife, and the Russian crew member on the Odyssey. That would be the old Kredenko with the Julia Harper character. I don't know. Maybe it's because the characters weren't very engaging. It seemed as though Cruise had and Julia had kind of this, not Julia, Victoria had kind of this idyllic relationship, and then it was kind of almost a three-way when Julia showed up, and then things kind of fell apart. But I don't know. It was okay. As far as the dreary part was really the apocalyptic part. Everything else looked like it was a fancy place where you might go on vacation or something up in the sky. I don't know why they would put it so high in the sky. It wasn't on a mountain or anything like the other guy. Tech number 52 had a place that was just, you know, kind of just on top of a mountain, whereas the other one seemed to be like, I guess. One thing I was thinking about, and I'm going to go back to the plot, and this made no sense to me. It just went bing, bing, bing in my head while I was listening to everybody else tell us about how wonderful the acting was. And that has to do with the fact that everybody who's left is going to go to Titan. Why Titan? There's nothing there. It's not habitable. In fact, the Earth itself is actually more habitable than Titan is. There's an oxygen there. Now, yes, I didn't see any real vegetation except what Tom Cruise found. But why would Tom want to leave? He doesn't want to leave. It's Jack Harper. Because he's got the whole little green thing going on. If there's one, there's more. The Earth is resilient. It'll come back. And there weren't a lot of people there as far as we could tell. So, you know, why go? That made no sense to me. Especially Titan. That's got to be terrible. And, you know, you die when you go outside to go smoke. You'd be dead and blow up. At least on Earth, you can go smoke and nothing happens, you know. It'll be okay. Let's see, what else? I don't think I have much else on characterization. Yeah, everybody was kind of flat, really. The mission control person was annoying, to be honest with you. And, you know, okay. All right, this is what I'll do. I'll go ahead and go to the top of the list, and this will be our final round. We'll just end it early this evening. Things you like to say about the movie? What could have made it better? Does this remind you of any film you've seen in the past that was better executed? Or was there something, was the twist ending? Well, nobody saw the twist ending except Fred and I. But, I don't know. Your final comments, anything you want. We'll start with Virginia, NV5F. What you got for us?
Okay. Am I tripping, or did we not get Brenda's notes on actors and stuff? I don't know. Maybe I'm tireder than I think.
No, she did some notes. She just talked about the painting that was in it. She really didn't talk about characterization. I think if she wanted to, she would, because Tom Cruise is one of her favorite actors. So, but at any rate, go right ahead. You're in order and everything's good.
Okay, thank you. I now recall you read a little thing that she wrote about the painting and how maybe it had something symbolic to do with this plot. Let's see, anything else? Well, I don't know. I didn't see enough of it to really say much, and I've kind of blathered on about other things during the first two rounds, like just general best practices in writing a screenplay and making a movie. I am overall, I mean, this movie's from 10 years ago, and I didn't even know it existed. That's how out of touch I've become in general. But it seems like a lot of this flavor of movies have come out in the last 10 years, and they seem to still be coming out. And I swear when I started watching it and I was just, not realizing what was going on, the bad audio, I picked up on the audio was bad, but it took me a while to figure out that all of the stylization was AI defeaters, and I really thought that was part of the style of this at first, and I have noticed that in movies, and even in TV, and in some of the new Star Trek, and some of the other online shows I watch, I'm ready for real music to come back to movies. The music in movies and shows now is so, I don't know. I hate minimalism. I hate it with a passion. now there's minimalist style music that's not necessarily minimalism, but it's that style, you know, and I just hate it. There's no character themes, there's no, I mean, granted, you know, people could argue, oh, the music is just cheating, it's telling you how to feel, but I like that. I like good music in movies. I like each character to have a theme. I like the, you know, just the classical musical idioms. You know, I have a degree in music, and I like to, you know, really listen to the music and think about it, and hear all the cool musical tricks that composers do. I like that stuff. You know, I love to hear old, you know, quoted, you know, classic things being quoted in modern movie scores, and I don't know. One of the sci-fi movies I blame for all this dreariness and minimalism is Gattaca. My brother loved that movie, and I hated it. We watched it together once, and he acted like it was so inspiring, and I was like, that was the dreariest, most horrible thing I've seen in, like, forever. So, you know, I usually can pick out a movie that I think was a trendsetter, and that was one of the dreary, you know, minimalistic things that I do not like. So, anyway, speaking of music, I was so down and feeling, you know, I was in my cave with my curtains drawn to keep the heat out of my house and keep the air conditioning in, and I was, you know, holed up in my den watching this movie, and when I turned it off, I was so down that I was like, I've got to find something. So I went on Paramount and I watched this week's episode of Strange New Worlds, which is a musical, and I'd heard about it. I knew it was coming out, and I thought it was a wonderful. It was definitely it definitely had a satirical approach to Star Trek and to musicals, and I thought it was bright and optimistic and very revealing of characters, and Brenda and I got to texting about it, and she said she liked it so much she was going to watch it again, and so I watched it again. I watched it twice, and I think it's bodes well. I think the second season of Strange New Worlds, of all the new live-action Star Trek, is the most Star Trek-y of all of the new Star Trek that's come out in the last few years. I think they're finally listening to fans, and, you know, they realize we're tired of Star Trek being dreary and horrible, and I really like the current season of Strange New Worlds, up until which I think was better Star Trek than any of the other new Star Trek that had come out. But anyway, now I'm pontificating about Star Trek, so. You know, it is early. I gotta fill some time. So anyway, the current Strange New Worlds is wonderful, and I'll probably watch it again tomorrow. It was very good. I hope they release an album of the songs so I can just get on Amazon or somewhere and just listen to the songs. It was delightful. Anyway, those are my comments for round 3. Thanks, Tom, for finding movies for us. I know every now and then we get bitten by something, and it's, you know, definitely. I might go and find Oblivion and try to give it a watch without all the nonsense and see what I really think about it. So anyway, that's it for me. K5ICX NV5F.
Well, thank you, Virginia, and I'm glad you mentioned Star Trek Strange New Worlds. It's fast becoming my favorite Star Trek, and that's saying something because I was a fan of the original when it first came out. I saw it on NBC the night that it premiered, and I was instantly in love with it because it was something different. And this show is definitely that. It takes chances. It goes back to kind of the spirit of the original series, and I love the cast and the characterization. And they take risks, and they take good risks. They've got great writing, great chemistry. Effects are fine. I love the retro futurism, which has the 60s vibes to it, and it still respects the original series for some of the things that it had that were really good and made the series great. I love the musical too. I thought it was fantastic. I'll go back and watch it again. I saw it Thursday night and really, really enjoyed it. And I think it's going to be an all-time favorite. And like I said, I think that series may just surpass the original series as my favorite. Just seems to gel really well. But we can talk about that in a bit. Next is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your comments, final comments on our movie Oblivion from 2013. Or you can talk about Star Trek if you want, or whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Go right ahead.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yes, Season 2 of Strange New Worlds would be much more interesting than what we watched. We should find an episode of that and review the second season at some point. Yeah, I agree. This season's been a lot of fun on there. Most of the episodes I've liked very much. I think there's only been a couple that were kind of slow, but overall it's been a really good season. And yeah, it's been a good series. Definitely enjoying that. So yeah, I guess back to the movie. Unfortunately, yeah, there's not to say. The special effects, once again, super dreary. I hate the trend. I agree with Virginia. This is getting old. It's yeah, I've had about enough of the dreary scenes for sure in movies. And I agree. The last 10 or 15 years, as far as science fiction, it's been not a whole lot of movies where it's much of a thinking movie. Just a lot of pew 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 everywhere. Unfortunately. So yeah, and I agree, the music, even if you watch the regular version without the special music, went a lot there actually for music. So yeah, and the audio was definitely better than the real one, but yeah, there's just a lot of CG in this thing, not a lot of practical. So yeah, I mean, the CG was okay, but overall wasn't overly impressed with it. But yeah, I missed two of the shows with good music. About a year ago, I actually watched the thing on the Doctor Who series since they brought it back, and they talked about how each character had their own theme, and when you see those characters on screen, you do hear their themes, it's silently in the background, but you do notice it. You almost don't notice it, but no, I think it makes a big difference in a film as how it feels when you have those character music in the background. Then obviously it's got a good theme, it helps too. So yeah, hopefully one of these days they will start doing that again, because I agree, it's disappointing that it's not a thing anymore. So yeah, not much else to say about this movie. I guess we'll look forward to the next one, and yes, thumbs up on Star Trek Season 2, or New Worlds, Strange Worlds Season 2. All right, back to that, KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. Yeah, I'll talk about the soundtrack here in a couple of minutes. All right, Brenda has put up her notes here since she's next in line. I'll go ahead and read them. She says, start here. This movie is like so many others. Flashy special effects and big stars will make up for a bad story. This movie made $287 million, so there must be a viable business plan. One nice thing I can say is Cruise got to display his flying abilities. Well, it's his flying abilities in special effects. I think you really mean the Mustang and his whatever he did in Top Gun. But it's okay. Whatever you want to say is fine by me. Oh, by the way, just as a side note, I'm watching over on MeTV. They have Kojak, the Night Stalker, and they are showing an episode of with an android in it that is kidnapping and doing terrible things. And its origins comes from a place called Tyrell Corporation. I thought that was rather interesting because Kojak the Night Stalker was on, I think it was ABC in 1974, so it came out 6 years before, maybe 7 years before Blade Runner. So I think the Tyrell Corporation name actually came from this episode. I'll bet you it did. I'll go back and look and see. At any rate, I just thought I'd make that comment because I saw it on the wall in the guy's office there that it was Tyrell. Next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. Cruz, wake up! Wake up! Tell us what you want to about this movie, or you can talk about Star Trek. We don't care. Or whatever you want. Doesn't matter. We're almost done. Go ahead. From KE5ICX.
KI5KWG. The musical score, of course, was the real focus of the film, I think, and we've all discussed it enough. And had a beat, you could dance to it. Right now my interest has turned into this bag of unsalted roasted peanuts that I just absolutely love. And I've been shelling away while listening to you all and thoroughly enjoying these peanuts and y'all's commentary. But I have nothing to add to this. KI5, KWG, back to net.
I love roasted peanuts, but I do have my big jar of dry roasted peanuts here. If you're watching the thing on TV, there it is. I've got a whole skid of these things. I buy them like 12 of these, where are they, 2-pound containers. About once a month. I go through them a lot, but I like them. But I like the roasted peanuts even better than shelling them. Delish. All right, let's see here. Yes, Brenda, he's not really flying a real spacecraft. I'm sorry. I know you think Tom would, and he looks like he is, and there's all things spilling. He spills his sippy cup. I agree to a certain extent with what everybody's saying. Atonal scores can be really monotonous. They can also be very good. Case in point, movies like 2001: Space Odyssey, while it did have classical music, also had some of that airy atonal type music in it. And I think it can be effective. Also, Planet of the Apes, a score by Jerry Goldsmith, my favorite composer of all time for motion pictures. That is an atonal score, yet the man was completely capable of writing some of the most bombastic, fantastic, fully throated scores imaginable. Patton being another favorite of mine on the other end of the scale. It's got a great beat, you can march to it. So it depends on what it is. It also depends what the director wants. So the scores, sometimes obviously you get who's available to do your score and who you can afford. And it's up to the director to kind of explain to the composer what he wants, hopefully, since they're generally not composers. Although, who is it? Carpenter, the guy who does the horror films. He composes music for his own movies. So John Carpenter. So you can do that as well. And he has kind of a very minimalistic scores in his films, and they're quite effective in his movies. They're not my favorites in the universe, but if you're going to watch those type of films, it seems to work, and it's very good. Escape from New York is an example of that, I think. See, what else can I say? Special effects, very flashy, very good looking. I thought that this was, I kind of, when you say dreary most of the time, and it does appear where they're underground and it's dark and all of that, that's a very common trope in science fiction films these days, that it has to be really dark and really dreary. Most of the scenes in this are actually in the clouds and bright and all of that. Where you can fully see things in the light of day, and even at night it's somewhat kind of spacey, forward-looking. But the story itself, of course, is a downer in the end, and the Earth is all wiped out. But I don't know. I think what we saw was a worthy effort. That's what some other critics have said. It was a worthy effort, but it could have been done or executed better. I would agree with that. Because a lot of the film is forgettable, and I had to go and read what I just read on the synopses to catch up and see where things went off the rails, and I lost interest because I did. It just took a long time, a slowly plotting pace until towards the very end, and then we, as I think it was Sean mentioned, that the big reveals at the very end, they just come right at you over and over, one right after another. And that really caused some issues, but made the movie even more confusing. All right. Anyone else want to check in before we say bye-bye? Or anyone have any final comments? I'm with your call now.
W5BLT, Whiskey 5 Bacon Lettuce Tomato Bill.
NV5F.
KG5B, Mike.
Wow, everybody came alive at the end, and one of our old timers, Mike's in there. So I got W5BLT, NV5F, and KG5P. Bill, we were looking for you earlier. You must have dozed off. If you did, it's not your fault. Go ahead with your comments.
Yeah, sorry about the echo link issue. I came back here to the radio. The music drove me nuts in this movie. I felt like it was like some 80s Atari video game whenever they were doing some of the scenes that weren't real action-oriented, and that's actually why I quit watching it. I couldn't stand the music on it. Anyway, Tom Cruise runs War of the Worlds for me, and it just continues to be a disaster on movies. I'm not a big fan. This didn't help matters any. But also appreciate everybody's comments. Somebody with a visual impairment, the articles made the scenery and everything in this movie sound really cool, and the bubble copter or ship or whatever that thing was. Anyway, always appreciate the movie nights, even if the movies are as bad as this one was. Camaraderie is good. Back to net control, W5BLT.
Oh, very good. Thanks, Bill, and letting us know you're out there. And by the way, that music was added by somebody else so that the movie wouldn't be pulled from YouTube. That turned out to be a real cluster, unfortunately, and you can blame me because I didn't screen the movie more closely. I thought we just had a decent copy that was available on YouTube. I was wrong. All right, NV5F, Virginia, go ahead with your final comment.
Okay, yeah, so I just wanted to clarify terms a little bit, I guess. Atonal and minimalist are two different things. I'm okay with atonal, or even some of the, we're talking about Star Trek. It's interesting to listen to kind of the evolution of the music in the Star Trek shows from like Next Generation, synth heavy, but some orchestrated. They go to full orchestrated by the end, and then you get into Deep Space Nine, and you hear the style change, and then into Enterprise, Voyager and Enterprise, you get some interesting harmonic stuff, and even some kind of atonal things, especially in Enterprise. You get some more modern, more 20th century sounding music. By minimalism, I mean this stuff that's just repeated. It's just this hammering, just And if you go back and rewatch, if you've seen the movie Gattaca, that's a perfect example of full-on minimalism. The music they used in 2001, I think all those tracks were originally supposed to be temp tracks, and Kubrick was like, hey, I like these. It's kind of a good mix. You have Strauss, and then you have Strauss again, two different Strausses, very different music. Thus Spoke Zarathustra's very 20th century. And then the atonal stuff that works so interesting for the monolith scenes on the moon and at the beginning of the movie. And so that's just me splitting hairs. I do not like minimalism, and it has taken over, and it is awful, and it adds to the dreary factor of things. And when I say dreary, sometimes I mean visually dark, but a lot of times I mean just no fun. Like, I want to feel good when I watch a movie, And this did have some pretty nice looking visuals. All the stuff like you set up in the air and they lived up in the sky in this place that looked like a resort, and the little secret clubhouse there, that was really well done visually. I'm just dreary. By dreary, I just mean stories that have no hope. I mean, life is hard enough. I need something that's going to make me feel hopeful, and that's why I am enjoying Strange New Worlds so much, because it's so much more like Star Trek than the stuff that came out a few years ago when I don't know what they were trying to do. And I'm not a big Lower Decks fan, but I thought the crossover, Strange New Worlds Lower Decks crossover was and really, really funny. I really enjoyed that too. I like what they're doing with that show. They're making it, like original Star Trek. You'd have these pretty heavy-duty episodes, but then you would have trouble with tribbles. I mean, they just really, and they've usually found ways to do that through most of the Star Trek shows. The Ferengi episode of Enterprise and some of the, most of the shows, but the stuff that they were originating online was just too much for so long, and I'm glad they're pulling back and really making it feel like Star Trek again. So here I'm back on Star Trek. But yeah, I like the variety of movie music that includes some atonal and 20th century harmony, but I hate minimalism with a passion. It's just, to me, it's just cheating, it's boring, and it's dreary. I can't stand it. Anyway, do you want me to tell you how I really feel? KE5ICX, NV5F.
Oh, I think we got it figured out. I understand, and I have some comments in a little bit about that. You got anything else?
No, that's it for me. I think I've used up my word quota for today in V5F.
Well, at least you didn't use the thing that you did during, what was it, Jetstream or something? At any rate. Okay, Mike, KG5B. Now, for you who are listening, Mike kind of actually originated this net, or this activity, after Skynet, because he's an amateur astronomer guy, and afterwards we started talking about movies, and then it became a net. So he's kind of the father of Afterglow Movie Net. Mike, you're out there still? KG5P, what you got?
Good evening, Tom and everybody. Well, I got a lot of noise trying to sit next to my computer, and it's cranking out all kinds of hash. So I'll keep this real short. Yeah, I was just reading the mail, and I haven't seen the movie. I think I'll probably miss it. I did see that Oppenheimer. That was pretty good. I'm gonna visit the Barbie movie. That's all I have for everybody. Wishing you all a great project.
Okay, Mike, well, you're starting to fade into the ether, but I'm glad you checked in. I've got something for you you'll probably like. Next week's movies is a 1950s film, maybe not one of the better ones, but next week's movie is 1953's Spaceways. And it says the following. It says, Professor Kopler leads a space program with the objective of placing a satellite in stationary orbit around the Earth. It's a science fiction film about space with very little going into space, but about an hour and 15 minutes long. That's next week's movie. Let's see, there was something I was going to say, too. I know what it was. Minimalistic scores. I love and hate at the same time Philip Glass. He doesn't compose anymore. He's getting up there in age. He's 86 now, but Kyanescatsi, I think, was my first real exposure to his stuff, and I've liked stuff that he's done since. I've gone to a couple of his concerts. It's an acquired taste, that type of music. But he's done motion pictures, although he's more known for his operatic and instrumental type pieces. But that can drive you insane too. I mean, it's that kind of style that can be very good, or it can be just grating on you. I think it just depends. So there you have it. I guess that's it for now. I'll go ahead and send out the info next week, or tomorrow, I should say, in the morning when I get back from my run. And we'll be talking about Spaceways from 1953. All the movies are listed. If you've got something you'd like to put in, I have no problem throwing it in there and even making it next week's movie if you want. I just find the films and put them. We've got coming up The Man Who Turned to Stone, 1957. After that, we got Absolute Zero from 2005, and then a film called The Zero Theorem from 2013. You don't have to pick. You don't have to watch these if you don't want to. We can pick others, but those are the ones that I found that are available for free. Okay, that's it for me, everybody. Thanks for checking in and being a part of this one. We'll be here again next week, same bat time, same bat channel. I'm going to finish up and watch the Tyrell Corporation and see what happens. See y'all. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear for now.